Good.
All right. Hey, Coach. Eric Ramsay, we'll get started with Andy.
Eric, with Dallas without Musa and without Acosta for 60 minutes, does that feel like 2 points dropped?
Yeah, I think we probably leave with the same sense of frustration that we left with against Toronto last week. I felt like it was a game that we showed no lack of desperation to win the game. We created a lot of good chances. I think all the numbers would suggest that we put absolutely everything into the final stages of that game, and I think there was only one team that was showing the real willingness to push and the real willingness to win. And I think that's a marker of where we've come. So I bet that come Monday, Tuesday, when we digest it properly, we'd probably look at it in a similar way to the way in which we looked at it last week. It's momentum, it's a clean sheet, there's lots of components of the performance that we'd be really happy with. It's a game that we dominated in a number of ways. So I think it's one where we would say there's more bad than good, but more good than bad, should I say, but we have to find that conviction in turning territory, chances, intensity, energy from the crowd into goals and wins. That's a really important thing for us. But I think if you take that as part of a whole, and the whole being the whole season up until this point, there's a lot of good in that performance, and I think the players would say the same. They leave the pitch feeling frustrated, but we know that's momentum for us.
How do you look at the attack sort of getting bogged down again this week?
Yeah, well, teams are defending really, really well against us now, and that element, if there was an element of surprise that led to some of the early success over the course of the first 3, 4, 5 games, then that element of surprise has of course disappeared, and you're finding teams, particularly these guys tonight, a really physical team. That back line was a really good match for our front two. They're defending against us with absolutely everything. I think you're seeing incredibly committed defensive performances. Teams are making adjustments, but I'll also say that that's not leading to a lack of chances. We've had good chances tonight. I think all the data, the numbers that sit behind that would suggest that that's a really solid performance, both with and without the ball. We've done enough to win the game without a shadow of a doubt, and for me, still we're at a stage of the season where that is the most important thing, that we have momentum, that we have a sense of the team being in a really good place. We have a sense of knowing why we're controlling games, knowing where we're falling short, and I think tonight it's precision, it's a lack of conviction, but there's certainly no lack of carrying out a game plan, no lack of coherence, no lack of willingness, no lack of aggression, no lack of intensity. So I would say I'm satisfied with that.
2 games in a row, you brought on Sam to try and change the game attacking-wise. We haven't seen Sangbin, Noel Week. Are you riding with the guys that have kind of brought you to this place, or are you lacking options to come off the bench?
No, I think Sam in the games that we've played recently against Toronto, against those guys, is obviously a very different proposition for the opposition. So I think when you play with 2 out-and-out nines that are in a relatively even matchup against 2 centre-backs that are real athletes, real competitors, we wanted to give them a very different problem as the game went on, and what Sam gives you is precision between the lines. He gives you the eye for a killer pass, he gives you security on the ball, and we're obviously conscious of Will Trapp's booking at that point, but we made that change with the same logic behind it as we did last week. We wanted to get another very technical player in the middle. We wanted to try and give the opposition a very different problem, and we coupled that with Carlos Harvey coming on the right, and he's dynamic, he attacks from deep, and I felt like the changes gave us a lot, and it's less to do with what Sangbin doesn't give you and more to do with what Sam does. And obviously we've got 2 forwards that are really in form that had to stand up to a physical battle there, and I felt like it was justified to keep those guys on.
You've had 2 straight scoreless draws. On the other hand, you just had a club record for most consecutive matches without losing. You haven't lost since the beginning of the season. How do you take those 2 things?
I'm really pleased. As I say, we're at a stage of the season. I'm the type of guy that tries to look at things as objectively as possible here, and we're at a stage of a season where we're keeping repeated clean sheets. We're giving very few clear-cut chances away. We're dominating games when it comes to chances, when it comes to the numbers that we see as really important in games, and that's the thing that bothers me at the moment. I want to look at the team and feel like it's sustainably competitive, that there are components to our performance that every opposition would be really worried about, and I think we're seeing that over the course of the last 2 games, and that's irrespective of whether we've scored or not. So perhaps if it's a playoff game and we lose it 1-0 on a counter-attack, then I'm bitterly disappointed. But where I'm at a point in the season where I'm worried about consistency, about how the team carries out a game plan, how the team closes a game out, and I said to the players in there, they closed the game out with an incredible intensity. I think we'd be able to pick out a load of clips that show that was a team that was desperate to win in the way that they chased back on transition. They killed the space on the top of the box really quickly when Acosta found himself in space, and then we stole the ball and they went the other way immediately. That's a team that wanted to win that game, and I can't ask any more of them in that sense.
I know probably if you ask the fans, they probably wouldn't be too happy with tonight's officiating, but when you look at your opportunities in the box, particularly tonight, would you like to see your team fight through contact a little bit more than perhaps at times hoping for a call, especially in the final 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was all the staff and a number of the players have made the point today that was as physical game as we've had today. I think it was a team that has got a backline with real athleticism, midfield players with a real doggedness, and I think it led to the game being relatively scrappy, I would say, in that sense. And we were probably an inch or two away from one of those decisions going in our favour, the ball dropping in a more favourable situation than it did, and unfortunately that wasn't the case. I would have some complaints about the softness of some of the bookings, some of the things that probably didn't go our way that arguably should have done around the top of the box, but I don't think it was too decisive a factor. But I'll probably reserve a bit of judgment having not looked back at those penalty shouts. But certainly a physical game, one that certainly lent itself to lots of those instances, I would say.
Did you feel like Dallas was almost trying to bully your team and sort of drag them into a fight?
I think we're gonna encounter that because I would say, based upon how the opposition speak about us, how people speak about us in general, people are going to look at us and think we're one of the more physical teams in the league. We're over the course of the last two games, we've shown other sides to our game for sure, but the standout characteristic of our team is the athleticism, it's the pace, it's the competitiveness, the intensity, the aggression, the set play threat, and that is going to lead the opposition to really heightening their focus around those things over the course of the week. And I know for sure opposition will spend more time than they would in comparison to normal on set plays. They'll spend more time talking about transitions, more time about dealing with a really athletic front two, and we have to adapt in that sense. And I think I'd much rather be in a position where this many games in we are asking real questions of the opposition that they're having to adapt to, and as opposed to us fighting to keep our heads above water in games. That's just not been the case over the course of almost any period of any game so far. So I would say there's a lot for us to be satisfied with, but we're self-critical people. We're a group that wants to get better. So I'm looking forward to the challenge in how we evolve and how we start to create more clear-cut chances.
¿Cree que el resultado refleja lo que sucedió en el campo y qué aspectos del juego se pudieron haber cambiado para mejorarlo?
No, he visto un equipo con la voluntad de ganar, la desesperación de ganar. Creamos muchas oportunidades bastante claras y ahora necesitamos trabajar en encontrar más precisión, más instinto para matar, y en eso hemos mejorado mucho, pero también hay más de ese equipo. Pero en general estoy feliz con la actuación, con el hecho de que hemos controlado el partido, hemos mostrado nuestra capacidad defensivamente y también creamos mucho y por eso es un base muy sólido. Y yo sé que tenemos los ingredientes para mejorar mucho.
There's been 3 matches where you've held near 50% possession, tonight included. All 3 of those matches have ended up in a draw. Is there any game plan changes that you've made for those matches, such as tonight against Dallas?
No, I always felt I think there's 2 things that sit behind the big skew on the possession numbers so far. One of them is that we've led in a lot of games early, and that creates a certain dynamic to the game, a certain rhythm to the game. We've played 5 of the first 8 games away from home. I think you've seen in the home games we've been more balanced in that sense, and it's by I expected that to be the case. I didn't anticipate that we would be hovering around 30% possession every game over the course of the season. we're not that team. We will find a really good balance. But again, I stress I'm really not bothered about how much possession we have come the end of the game. It's much more about the number of opportunities the opposition have, the number of opportunities we have, the quality of our chances, the quality of the opposition's chances, and ultimately the score. And there's not too many times that I've been drastically unhappy with where we've been left come the end of the game. But this would be one for sure that there would be some frustration around, as there was last week. But the possession is less of my focus at this point.
Last one from John.
You touched on this in your Spanish answer, but you spoke of being self-critical. What do you feel like the biggest thing that needs to improve right now is?
Yeah, we need to show an ability to create chances in a more predictable way around the top of the box. So I think now that we're getting a level of respect from the opposition, that's going to mean that we're going to have more control of the ball. It's going to mean that we're going to be able to string consecutive passes together. We can be more organised in the way we spring attacks, and I feel like the types of attacks that you saw in the latter stages of the game, the dynamism on the right-hand side, the way we're able to attack the sides of the pitch, I think for sure that's an area where we will continue to build. We're strong, but for sure we need to make sure that we're reliably creating chances in that way, because teams will work so hard to defend the space in behind. They'll work so hard to stop the balls into the two number 9's feet, and the combinations off that, inevitably we're gonna be able to attack the side of the pitch. And we have players in those situations that can be really, really dangerous. We just lacked a little bit of precision and perhaps a little bit of luck in the way that the chances fell tonight. So I'm really happy with the principles that sit behind what we're trying to do with the ball and the way in which we're trying to create chances. I feel like we can create chances in organised moments, unorganised moments, attacking transitions and set plays. And I would say we're a relatively complete team in that sense. But now the dynamic has shifted a little bit, then for sure we're going to have to be more precise, play with more rhythm, attack the sides with more energy, more dynamism in the way that we did as the game went on. So yeah, I know that we've got the ingredients to tackle that problem really, really well.
I think Jack has a question.
Hi, pal.
All right, that'll do it.
Good. It's when are we watching Paw Patrol?